It started out like any other quiet morning on my ranch. The sun was just breaking over the hills, the horses were grazing near the fence line, and I was sipping coffee on the porch. That peace didn't last long. Out of nowhere, the distant thump of helicopter blades began echoing through the valley. At first, I thought it was just a routine training flight or maybe a news crew passing over, but the sound kept growing louder. Then I spotted it, a rescue helicopter hovering low above my property. Clearly in the middle of a serious operation, before I could figure out what was going on, SUVs came barreling up the dirt road, dust flying behind them. Out jumped a group of men wearing tactical-looking vests marked with HOA enforcement in bold letters. I'd never seen them before, and my gut told me something wasn't right. They were shouting into radios, waving their arms at the helicopter like they were trying to force it to leave. Something about their gear looked off. The patches didn't match any official department I knew of. And their badges looked cheap, almost like props from a costume store. My neighbors had gathered near the fence, whispering and snapping photos. The so-called HOA cops kept pacing and yelling about restricted airspace and violations, but the pilot wasn't budging. The rescue crew clearly had a mission, and it was more important than whatever these guys were claiming. That's when the tension hit its peak. Over the rumble of the chopper, I caught the faint sound of sirens in the distance. Real sirens. The fake officers froze for a moment, looking at each other like they'd been caught in the act. The next thing I knew, black-clad SWAT officers came pouring down the road in armored trucks. And within minutes, everything exploded into chaos. The moment those SWAT trucks rolled in, the whole scene shifted. Dust clouds kicked up, radios crackled, and the air felt heavy with tension. The fake HOA cops stopped yelling at the helicopter and started slowly backing toward their SUVs, like maybe they could just slip away unnoticed. But the real officers weren't letting that happen. You could tell by the way they moved, deliberate, fast, and ready for anything. From my porch, I kept trying to piece together what I was actually seeing. My ranch isn't in any official HOA territory, and there sure isn't any reason for one to be enforcing airspace rules. That alone didn't make sense. The rescue helicopter was still circling above, kicking up dust and rattling the windows, which made it even harder to hear what the fake cops were shouting to each other. It almost seemed like they didn't know exactly what they were supposed to do once SWAT showed up. A couple of my neighbors started filling me in. Apparently, they'd seen the same group earlier in the week, driving through the area, stopping to take pictures of properties, and knocking on doors claiming they were investigating safety code violations. No one had taken them seriously. Until now. Seeing them trying to block a rescue operation was something else entirely. Meanwhile, the SWAT officers fanned out. Some moving toward the fake HOA trucks, others keeping their eyes on the men. The fake cops had body armor and radios, but they didn't have the confidence or discipline of actual law enforcement. Their voices were shaky, their stances uneven. Above us, the helicopter suddenly lowered a bit, as if the crew was preparing to land or drop someone in. Whatever rescue they were here for was urgent, and time was running out. SWAT seemed to know it too, because they were closing in fast. Then one of the fake cops made a move. Something quick, something desperate. And that's when everything really started to spiral. The sudden movement from one of the fake HOA cops set everything off. He bolted toward the nearest SUV, fumbling with something on his belt. SWAT reacted instantly, shouting commands, weapons trained, boots pounding against the gravel. The rest of the fake officers froze for a split second before scrambling, some trying to follow him, others just standing there looking lost. From my vantage point, it was chaos layered on top of chaos. The helicopter above was still holding position, but now I could see a figure being lowered on a cable, swaying slightly in the rotor wash. Whoever they were rescuing, it had to be serious. Maybe a medical emergency, maybe someone trapped. But here on the ground, the situation was unraveling fast. A SWAT officer broke from the main group and moved toward my fence, asking if I'd seen these men before. I told him about the strange patrols and the door knocking earlier in the week. He nodded like it fit into something bigger, something they'd been tracking. His radio crackled with clipped updates: vehicles blocked, suspects split, helicopter priority remains green. It was clear this wasn't random. Meanwhile, a couple of my neighbors had pulled out their phones, filming from behind the safety of their cars. You could hear them whispering theories. Maybe these fake HOA cops were after something on my land. Maybe they were trying to disrupt the rescue for a reason. No one could figure out the why, and that was making everyone more uneasy. The man who ran to the SUV finally got the door open. But before he could get in, 2 SWAT officers tackled him hard into the dirt. The others didn't even try to help him. They were glancing toward the helicopter, like they were waiting for something. It was that look, that strange focus, that made me realize they weren't here for me, or even the ranch. They were here for whatever was in that helicopter. And the second that thought hit me, the figure being lowered finally touched the ground. The figure from the helicopter touched down in a whirl of dust and wind, crouching low as the cables snapped free. From where I stood, I could see they were wearing a bright rescue harness over a dark flight suit, moving quickly toward the edge of my pasture. They didn't even glance at the commotion with the fake HOA cops. Their focus was locked on something, or someone hidden from my view. That's when I noticed the shift. The fake officers, even the ones pinned down or surrounded by SWAT, were no longer watching the rescue crew. Their eyes kept darting between the landing zone and a specific patch of scrub near my fence line. My stomach tightened. Something was there, something they desperately wanted to reach before the rescue team did. SWAT must have picked up on it too, because their formation tightened. Officers moved into the tall grass, scanning with flashlights despite the daylight. The radio chatter grew faster, more urgent. The helicopter above hovered lower, blades screaming, making it nearly impossible to hear exactly what was being said. One of the fake cops suddenly shouted over the noise, something about not letting them take it. His voice cracked, part panic, part defiance. That was all it took. 2 of them lunged forward in a last-ditch dash toward the scrub. SWAT reacted instantly, charging to intercept, while the rescue figure broke into a full sprint in the same direction. The ground shook under the combined pounding of boots and rotor wash. Horses in the nearby corral bolted to the far side, kicking up dust. My neighbors gasped, some ducking behind their trucks as the standoff spiraled into a race against time. And then I saw movement in the brush. Just for a second. Whoever or whatever was hidden there shifted, and the rescue figure was only feet away. Just as the fake HOA cops closed in from the other side, the brush parted. And for a split second, I thought I saw a person, but then it hit me. It wasn't just one figure. 2 people were crouched there, one slumped over, the other gripping their arm as if they were hurt. The rescue crew member reached them first, dropping to their knees to check on the injured one. That's when the second figure looked up, and even from a distance, I could see the panic in their eyes. Before anyone could react, the fake HOA cops made their move. Instead of charging the rescue worker, they split. One lunged toward the uninjured person, the other toward the injured one. SWAT was seconds behind, but the fake officers weren't trying to fight this time. They were trying to grab and run. The helicopter crew shouted something over the radio. And suddenly, the chopper banked sideways, lowering again like they were preparing to lift someone out. The downdraft ripped through the pasture, bending the brush flat and sending my hat flying. And that's when the second twist hit. The uninjured figure pulled something from under their jacket and tossed it toward the fake HOA cop. It wasn't a weapon, but a heavy, battered-looking metal case. It landed with a dull thud in the dirt, and all the fake officers' attention shifted to it instantly. They dove for it like it was the only thing that mattered in the world. SWAT saw it too, and now the fight was no longer just about rescuing the injured person. It was about that case. The officer closest to me shouted into his radio, his voice tight, "We've got the package, priority read." Everything erupted at once. The rescue worker trying to shield the injured, the fake cops clawing for the case, and SWAT surging in to block them. The air was deafening with rotor noise, yelling, and boots pounding the ground. And then, just as one SWAT officer's hand closed over the case, a sharp crack rang out from somewhere beyond the tree line. The sharp crack echoed across the pasture, cutting through the roar of the helicopter. Everyone froze for a split second, even the fake HOA cops. SWAT's radios erupted with urgent calls, officers scanning the tree line. The case was still in their hands, but now every movement was sharper, more deliberate. Then, like a dam breaking, everything moved at once. 2 SWAT officers pulled the injured person to safety while the rescue crew signaled for a lift. The helicopter's cable dropped fast, and within seconds, they were strapping the injured up for evacuation. The uninjured figure was hustled away. In the opposite direction, flanked by armed officers, the fake HOA cops realized they were out of time. One tried to make a break for the brush, but SWAT tackled him hard, pinning him in the dirt. Another was dragged backward in cuffs, still shouting about the deal, and you don't understand what's in there. The metal case was whisked toward an armored truck, guarded like it was worth more than gold. I caught a glimpse as it passed, scratched, dented, but with markings that looked military. Whatever was inside, it clearly wasn't just paperwork or tools as the helicopter lifted off with the injured person. The rotor wash tore through the grass, and for a brief moment, I thought it was over. The fake cops were down, the case was secure, and SWAT was pulling out. But then I saw one of the real officers stop mid-step, staring at his radio with a frown. Another helicopter was approaching. This one was black, unmarked, and coming in fast. From the north, the SWAT commander's voice was sharp over the radio, but I couldn't make out the words. The rescued man looked back at the sky, eyes wide. "That's not with you?" he asked the nearest officer. The answer, judging by the sudden scramble to reposition, was no. And just like that, I knew the real trouble wasn't over at all. The unmarked black helicopter closed the distance fast, but SWAT wasn't wasting a second. The commander barked fresh orders, and within moments, the injured rescuee was airborne. Again, the cable whisking them up toward the original chopper. The armored truck holding the metal case roared to life, kicking up dirt as it sped down the ranch road with 2 escort vehicles tight behind. The fake HOA cops, now fully cuffed and lined up, shouted over the chaos, insisting they had rights. And weren't the bad guys, but their words were drowned out by the pounding rotors overhead. The unmarked helicopter hovered briefly as if sizing up the scene, then, without warning, banked sharply and turned away toward the horizon. No one followed? Not yet. Gradually, the noise and dust began to settle. The last of the SWAT officers did a sweep of the property, making sure there were no other surprises hidden on my land. A few stopped to thank me for the information I'd given them earlier. One explained, in careful, vague terms, that the fake HOA cops had been part of a larger scheme targeting rural areas, but the appearance of that case and whatever was inside had put them directly on the radar of federal agencies. My neighbors trickled back to their homes, still buzzing with questions and theories. The rescue crew's helicopter disappeared into the distance, and the valley slowly returned to the quiet hum of wind through the grass. Standing on my porch again, it's coffee long gone cold. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd only seen part of the story. That metal case, the injured stranger, the unmarked helicopter, they were pieces of something bigger. Something that might circle back one day. For now, the ranch was calm. But in the back of my mind, I knew calm never lasts forever.